everyone. This is Brianna Miko.
Hope all is well. I'm Ava Adams.
And I'm Tessa Stevens, and thanks for joining us.
We're here for connecting and supporting people,
sharing relatable moments,
always encouraging and always growing. We're
practically
social work.
Hello and welcome to Practically Social Work.
Today's going to be a fun day.
Yes, a fun day.
We're going to be a little bit vain, but also to be transparent with everybody and kind of do the whole back to school thing and do really awkward icebreakers, but try to make it interesting as we can. As interesting as it can get. So we'll be talking a little bit what got us to this point in our social work studies, what drove us here.
That's a great question, Tessa. What drove us here? Because I think a lot of people at work right now are there for the wrong reasons. So I'm happy that we are where we are and for the right reasons.
Agreed.
Yeah. Agree. How long ago did it hit for you guys that you wanted to go into social work? When did you have that moment where you're like, this is what I want to do?
Mine was during the pandemic. I was in school getting all my prereqs done for nursing school. And when COVID hit, it was a combination of a lot of things. But when COVID hit, the nursing home that I worked at, I was like, not what I want to do for the rest of my life.
I know a lot of people died in nursing homes during COVID, during the shutdown. One of my individuals, actually, to be frank. How was your experience in that environment?
It was the craziest thing I've ever lived through. We went from we would have 20 patients on our floor. And there was a time period where we were down to 3 because every time they got COVID, they had to go to a different floor. But it was horrible for the nursing home because our floor did not have bathrooms in every single room. So they all had commodes in their room. Some of them were sharing a room. So they were just going to the bathroom in buckets essentially in their room. They couldn't come out of the room for anything. So no activities, nothing, no physical therapy. I can't tell you how many patients were walking and, mobile. And then COVID happened. And then now they're bedbound. They're in a wheelchair. It was horrible watching them. Their mental struggles as well. They couldn't see their families. And we would Skype them. We did the best that we could, but it was just really sad. And patients were dying left and right. And it was scary because, you see everything on the news, how bad it is. And then it gets into the place where you're working and you're terrified. I was stripping down in my garage, so that I didn't bring it home to my kid. And it was crazy.
Yeah, we were terrified in 2020. I remember my friends coaching me in the car before we got to the grocery store, in the parking lot, just trying to calm me down because I was like, I don't want to go. There's too many people. It was crazy. It was crazy. Yeah.
It was an intense time. Yeah, it's almost unreal to think of because you don't expect that type of thing to happen. And then the next thing you know, it became such a normal part of all of our lives. You don't see people. You are constantly wearing a mask. You're not seeing the people who you used to see every single day. I got pregnant early in the pandemic, but prior to that, I was in CPS and we were wearing PPE head to toe. We still had to go into people's houses. We didn't,
right.
You know what I mean? It was nuts. It was just such a weird time.
Yeah.
I was in a group home wearing full PPE, all day long. A lot of the staff members were told not to come in, and we basically kept a skeleton crew. It was intense, and it was, I don't know, it was almost is this the apocalypse? Is it happening? You know, to be told like during the shutdown, you can go home and you can go to work. That was it. And like for some people, they couldn't even go to work. I literally had to carry a letter with me in my car.
I work for the federal government, and they had this program. It's called DEMPS, and it's like they deploy people. So during a like time of disasters, they can deploy federal employees to other parts of the world. And so we were pretty lucky where we were. It was bad, but it wasn't, like out of control. But New York City, New Jersey, places where it was really bad, I actually volunteered to go for 2 weeks to New Jersey to this private nursing home that was overrun with COVID, and the National Guard was there. And it was the craziest experience of my entire life. It just seemed like the apocalypse. And the nursing home was like half of it was full of COVID, half of it was people who were like recovering from COVID. And the PPE that they had there were hospital gowns. That's what you would wear, hospital gowns, and then N95s. That was it. And it was just completely overrun. It was crazy. So,
but here you are in social work because of your experiences. Honestly, like my hat goes off to you if I had a hat on. My hat goes off to be in a situation like that, to experience those things, and a light bulb to go off in your head and be like, oh, let me do something about this, you know?
Yeah.
Thank you, Brie.
Healthcare workers at that time, man, they did not get enough credit. Like everybody like would say like, oh, thank your healthcare workers, but like at the same time they were getting stomped on.
Yeah.
That has changed at all, but which that's a different story for a different day that I can be mad about, but I could go into.
My friend was a sanitation worker at a hospital when it all went down, and the stories that she used to tell me, and she ended up getting COVID a couple of times because of it. She's in there cleaning up rooms.
Right. Oh,
Yeah.
God, that's so terrifying. Well, how about you, Ava? When was your moment of like finding?
You know what, Tessa, I don't know if I had a moment of finding. I feel like I've always been a social worker, if that makes sense.
I get it.
Literally always. I've always looked out for other people. I feel like I'm a natural leader, so people naturally follow me and look to me, and I've always had that like responsibility for others looming over me. My mom is a social worker as well. I grew up in that setting. I don't know. Like it's just in me. I don't know, but
I grew with you.
Yeah.
With you.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. No, love it. Love it.
What about you?
Me? I think I don't know, kind of the same. And I think I fall into the category of people who like have their own like stuff going on and like that learning process type of thing. And yeah, I mean, I wasn't diagnosed with being ADHD autism until I was in my 20s. Then I had that huge like health crisis where I had the autoimmune stuff going on. Nobody knew what was going on. I couldn't get out of bed. And I think the more internships I did, and especially with kids, helping kids, I was like, how did adults miss all these signs? I kind of already knew I wanted to go into mental health, but as I grew older, more social justice type of vibe was going with me. So I was like, social work, yeah, that's where I want to be.
Yeah, like you don't want other kids to kind of go through what you did, you know?
Yeah.
I also just have felt I have a certain experiences in my life, and I feel I can relate to a lot of people. And same as kids, like I have experiences in my childhood that I feel like other kids have experienced. And my hope is to just be able to empathize with them, but also just to be like, this is what could help you.
And that's like part of our education, using what we know and what we've been through to help other people, you know?
Yeah, empathy is huge when you're a social worker. You need it. You have to be an empathetic person to really help anybody in this field.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Empathy.
Huge. It's a little bit scary Sometimes just scrolling through social media and you really realize there's so many people that they completely lack it. It's a little horrifying.
Yeah. I definitely have to say that I've learned empathy. I don't know if I would say that I was born with it. I definitely had a sense of it. For me, it wasn't always applicable. And now I've learned to apply it in every situation, and life is better. That is all.
I get it. There's some people who are just, I want to say like highly sensitive because that's not the wording I want to use. I don't know. I feel like there's just people who have like this really good balance of like sensitivity and like problem solving, and that's why they end up in this field,
Mm-hmm. For sure.
if that makes sense.
Absolutely. But there are also people who end up in this field that are not empathetic,
It's
that
true.
don't have problem solving skills or critical thinking skills.
Yep.
Yeah, that don't share our perspectives, our big common perspectives, that is, anyway. And that's
Which is
scary
kind of
to me.
scary.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's
I agree. I agree.
you'd think that our field would be sacred, you know? Come on.
Right.
So you know what else I've
Yeah,
kind of
some of the
noticed too in this field is like, I don't know if you guys have experienced it, but there's also this weird, almost like rivalry between social workers. So like I work in the domestic violence field, right? And like we
Mhm,
work with the Department of Social Services. And you
mhm.
would think that like we would be cohesive, we would all want to help each other. That's what I assumed, but it's really not. Like part of what I do is when somebody comes into the safe house, we have to bill through DSS, and some of these people that work for DSS are like very unempathetic. It's like a fight. It's almost like they feel as
Yeah,
if the money is coming from their pocket alone when it
mhm.
doesn't.
Mm.
So it's crazy to me, and that's something that I never had experience with.
You know, what's weird is I can relate to that. My role as CPS, that was also Department of Social Services. And we worked a lot with community services, like whether it was getting like, mother and children into a safe house, or it was, getting somebody to a homeless shelter. We would have to communicate. I totally know what you mean, because it's such a nuisance on them to be doing this. And it's like, why are you here?
I'm sure there's probably like a reason, like somebody's coming down on them for
Probably. Oh, I'm sure.
yeah.
I'm sure that the person at DSS that I'm arguing with is probably like, this lady. I don't know what's going on in her life.
It's rough.
It is.
Maybe we'll learn. We'll figure it out eventually.
But the other
Hopefully.
part is, though, the other part I want to mention, though, people who work at Department of Social Services aren't necessarily social workers. So that's where a lot of that like empathy can be lacked. I guess it would be like the funding people, the TA people. They don't really need a human services background to get
Mm.
those positions.
Yeah. We talk a lot in my agency about how we wish that anybody who works at DSS who has any type of connection with domestic violence survivors would have some more trainings. Or I think a lot of people don't know is so domestic violence survivors, like part of their coping mechanism when you're living with someone who's like controlling or abusive or whatever, you might exhibit some of that behavior back, manipulation, lying, things like that, right? It's like a huge coping mechanism because you've had to do that to survive. So I think people who don't understand that just think like they're liars, they're just, whatever. And that's like where a huge barrier is with a lot of these like outside people.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Working with other agencies is always rough because it's like there's just so many hands in one pot. And
exactly.
as much as I love more community services, it's just like it can become a clusterfuck real quick.
Yeah,
That's the
for
only
sure.
way I know how to put it.
I kind of have always secretly wished that all of the agencies like in my county, we have like Salvation Army, we have CPS, us, whoever else. I wish we could play some type of sport where we were pitted against each other.
Softball teams, do it.
Something, I don't know, just to kind of like
Do
get
it.
some of that like passive aggressive energy out. I feel like it would be really good for all
Yeah.
of us. Any Genesee County is watching this. Yeah, I got some ideas.
This should be done
I
in
love
every
that.
state. Every state.
Yeah.
So listeners, let's get it going. A
Yeah.
big old kickball between
Like,
agencies.
between agencies.
And what does the winner
Wasn't
get?
there?
Brie?
The winner gets, well, first of all, bragging rights. First of all, I don't know. I'm not sure what they get. Maybe like everybody has to pay like $5 to play, and then the winner, their agency gets that money.
We just can't
Split.
let the Salvation Army win.
No,
No.
I like the Salvation Army. Maybe there's like a little baby social work that's gonna watch, and she doesn't know, you know, that there's like rivalry between agencies, and she's gonna know. She's gonna go into it. Should be
I've
good.
honestly never experienced that. I come from a
Really?
small agency. We have like maybe 5,000 to 8,000 employees. It's not huge. We're just on from the Bronx
5
to
to
New Hampton.
8,000.
Yeah.
Well, okay. I'm in rural America, so to us, that's giant. That's
My agency has like
enormous.
12 employees, so. They're 12
Okay.
plus.
All right. I come from a big agency then.
She comes from a huge agency. Huge.
Like 5 to 8,000.
I come from a great agency. Like, you know, every agency has their problems, obviously.
Yeah.
We all have our
Yeah.
problems. We're all limited by government subsidies and private donations and the wants and needs of a million people and trying to make everyone happy. I would love to say that I love my agency. I'd like to give them a shout out, but they are not paying me to do that. So I'm not going to do that.
We gotta wait until we're sponsored.
I love my agency. They cater to people with developmental disabilities. They have amazing programs.
Yeah, they take their clients on cruises. Like I want to go on a cruise.
Yes, our
Take
agency
me.
is literally taking like almost 100 people on a cruise in February. And,
I
you know,
give all of you the utmost credit for doing that. I remember the agency I was in, similar agency, and we wanted to do that, but something with the medication.
mm,
There was issues with like passing medication or something, but
yeah, like the individuals that go are all
I
self-medicating.
gotcha. I gotcha.
Either that or their house nurse will come, but the house nurse has to be able to be like certified and licensed,
Right,
in, like a
exactly.
certain amount of like jurisdictions, and like it's complicated, yes, but fortunately my agency
do
has
it.
done all those things. So yeah.
That's just such an amazing opportunity. When I think about like where people have come in the years, they were in institutions and now we're going on cruises. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, so bad.
And I love that. I just love that like now there's such an emphasis on like helping them to meet whatever goals they want. And not only that, but also like making them a functioning member of society, you know, like giving them
Yes,
a
I was just
purpose.
gonna say, Bree, I can't even count anymore how many times I've seen somebody with, for example, Down syndrome in a movie, or
A model.
CP, yeah, or
Mhm.
model with
Mhm.
an amputee that's a model. You know, like it's amazing how inclusive we've
Right.
become in such a short amount of time.
Right.
I'm proud of us.
Love
We
it.
have a lot. We have a long way to go,
Long
but
way to go, yeah, but it's
We
definitely
do.
getting there.
So-
yeah.
So I'm gonna. This is gonna sound awful. I also like hate on some of like the agencies that are just like trying to be trendy out of nowhere after like years and years and years of being so exclusive to like one type only, and then like all these other like brands are like, no, we want to be like inclusive, like Victoria's Secret, for example.
Mm,
For how many decades were they like, just like the 5'11" blonde with C's, and that was
Right.
it. That was all you get. And now all of a sudden, in the past year, like as happy as I am, it just makes me so mad because I really do feel like it's just like to be trendy, and it bothers me.
I like completely understand that. But at the same time, like take that and energy and use it to like force them to hold them accountable and like not let it be trendy. Like, you know, next
Mhm.
season, who are you gonna have? A trans? You know, somebody from Africa, let's go, you know, Victoria's Secret, whatever your name is, John something. What's his name?
Oh no, I have no idea.
I don't know.
It's some cishet white man, you know, part of the 1%. One of them.
Old white man.
I feel like we need to have a white man like as a guest that day. It
Andrew,
has to
I'm
be
just
like
kidding.
it should be like someone that we know and love. Oh, what else are we talking about?
We've talked a little bit about how we've gotten here, right?
Mhm. Yep.
Does anybody have any like past trauma they want to talk about openly that got them here?
Past trauma that led us here. I don't know if my past trauma led me here. I don't think my past trauma has anything to do with here.
Not super comfortable sharing, you know, everything, but I'll throw a little bit out there, open myself up a little. I have literally had anxiety since I was 5 years old. It wasn't diagnosed, but I remember going to a special teacher, and at the time I didn't know what that was about. And we were making worry dolls. I feel like anxiety is so prevalent now. I've been going to therapy many times throughout my life, starting at probably 20. That's something that I feel passionate about, helping people deal with that. I've been diagnosed with anxiety, OCD. When I was 25, I was diagnosed with cancer, and I didn't really deal with it at the time. Like it happened, I went through it, and then a bunch of weird shit started happening. Basically, I was having these like psychogenic non-epileptic seizures where yeah, just my body was like shutting down. I had alopecia, my hair was falling out, like crazy shit started happening to me. And I'm a firm believer that not processing the feelings, like when someone tells you at 25 that you have cancer, I remember thinking like, "Oh my god, I'm going to die." And I felt that. I felt like I'm probably going to die. So, I didn't deal with it. My body went crazy, and then I did deal with it and my body went back to normal. So that's something that I've experienced and that I hope can help other people. I would love to maybe work in a hospital with kids that have cancer, maybe helping them process or something. So yeah.
Wow. Thank you for sharing that. And I'm so glad that
Yeah.
like everything worked out and like you're here with us today and like
Yeah.
Yes,
healthy.
very much.
Whoa.
Mhm.
Wow.
Life
That's
is crazy,
crazy.
bro.
It
Life
is
is
Yeah.
crazy.
a wild
Fucking
ride.
comes at you fast.
Shit. Well, damn. Tessa, you
Yeah.
got any trauma?
Oh, I got
Bring it
tons
up,
of
girl.
trauma.
Tell us your trauma.
What's my trauma? Oh shit, where do I start? I mean, my parents being divorced wasn't traumatic for me. They were never actually like together. Like they did like the good Catholic Italian thing, got married, stupid fucking idea. But like my mom definitely has mental health stuff. I won't go into it too much. And my dad he was military, had a lot of anger issues. And I think they were more focused on trying to be the better parent, which meant like putting the other one down and stuff like that. Shit that kids don't need to hear. So
No.
like I'm growing up hearing that type of shit. Meanwhile, I'm dealing with undiagnosed like ADHD and autism, not getting shit for it for years and years and years. You know, I was labeled the bad kid for a long time. But things got better after I had some diagnoses. And after my autoimmune stuff was figured out, that made things a lot better too. When I was in my 20s, I was with this guy. He was hiding my medications on me because anxiety wasn't real, ADHD wasn't real. So I'm like self-medicating with alcohol, bouncing up and down on meds because I'm taking them this day, that day, wrong time, just all over the place.
That man deserves to
Because,
be in jail.
I mean, it's such a different point in my life. And I definitely parent so differently than the way I was parented. Like my whole style of living is just so much different compared to my upbringing. Like I'm definitely a gentle parent.
I think that's a great point to bring up. I think that's something that I'd like to speak with further in another
Yeah.
episode.
Parenting.
Parenting, childhood trauma, ACEs, how all that affects everything. Co-parenting. I think that's a
Mhm.
huge struggle nowadays with the divorce
Yeah.
rate and everything. And some people
I
do it.
didn't have a dad. I don't have a dad. I think I turned out okay though.
I think you did.
I think you're fine. I think you're great.
I didn't have a
Yeah.
dad growing up either, so yeah.
Daddy wasn't there. I love Austin Powers. I love him. Anyway, so Bree, you've done the domestic violence thing. You said you worked with DSS, so you've got some experience with kids, right?
I haven't worked with DSS. I worked with individuals with disabilities. I worked right now in a nursing home. Yeah.
Okay. But what do you want to do after we get our licenses, after we graduate?
Yeah. That's a good question. And I'm really not sure. I know that I want to work with kids. I don't know in what capacity yet. I'm still figuring it out. So I'm going to be doing my internship in a school working with teenagers down to like a little 5-year-olds. So we'll see how that goes. I don't know. I've also thought about doing like court appointed, I don't know. I feel like the sky's the limit in social work. So
It
I got a couple years.
is. I gotta say, I'm not really sure either. I don't have like this is what I want to do and like
Mhm.
lights and everything all planned out. But
Yeah.
I definitely know that I want to do a bunch of things. I know that with our social work degrees that we can,
Mhm.
You can.
sky's the
It's
fucking limit.
so it fits into so many different, like, you can put it in health, you can put it in politics, you can put it,
Yeah.
gosh,
I
so
definitely want to
many.
get my feet wet in like the social justice realm and like rewrite some policies, make some real change.
Yeah.
I definitely
Mhm.
want to get involved in like organizing and stuff like that. But I also really want to continue to work with my special needs population because it's my heart and my soul.
Yeah.
And like maybe do some therapy for that population.
There you go.
Maybe I can do both, like
Has a limit.
yeah. Tessa, what do you want to do?
The psychologist I work for now, I have a spot there that's private practice. So I want to work with kids and children specifically. Not that I have anything against men, any guys watching this. It's not anything about that. It's just I have a harder time working with males than, and I have a sweet spot for women advocacy and child advocacy. But I do have a dream to start a nonprofit. I don't know how far it'll go, but I would love to do that. I also working for local government for the past like 4 years. I've seen a lot of issues in policy. The like legislators that are local government, like it's insane how they're in these positions. Like, and I don't like say that their experiences like as like business people or should be like invalidated, but like that should not be the primary source of our legislators.
Mm.
That like, especially for human services,
It's not a representation of who we are.
it's not. And I'm gonna bring it back to old white men. The majority is old white men, and it's just so much out of the loop at this point. Like things that were relevant 40 years ago, but like things have changed so much. And please do not tell me how to do like these jobs if you've never tried to step foot in them. I remember writing to our legislators, offering them to like do ride-alongs with me in the field. Nobody wrote back. And so many of my coworkers did the same thing. Nobody got replies.
Mm.
We really want them just to understand. Please, like, walk a mile in our shoes. That's
Right.
all I'm asking.
Yeah.
So I would love to get into like macro level stuff sometime.
Maybe we'll do it together, Tessa.
There you
Yeah,
go.
I'd love it.
And I'll be over here.
You're going to be on TV with the Horner family.
I would love to be on Hoarders. Dr. Zazio is the doctor, that's the psychologist that's on there.
I like to watch My 600-Pound Life.
Same.
Man,
I feel for them though, man. Like it's gotta be hard.
it's so easy to get to that point. I feel like you could just do that overnight
Well,
or something.
so many of them have undiagnosed mental illnesses, trauma, especially hoarders. Hoarders is chock full of just childhood trauma, grief, and loss.
They
So,
don't really talk a
Yeah.
lot about the psychology like they do in Hoarders. They don't do
yeah,
that a lot in 600-Pound Life.
I like it in hoarders because you can see the process behind it. You can see them trying to change their way of thinking. I like the way that they speak to the people and they're like, tell me more about that. Let's sit with that feeling for a little bit. I love that stuff.
Yeah. I can appreciate that.
The people on Hoarders get crazy though. They get crazy,
It's
Brie.
the southern women, the older southern women are the wildest ones. And that's nothing against you because I know you're in Georgia, but they're wild. They're so mean.
It's a different personality. For
I have
sure.
No shit.
noticed that like 60% of the episodes of Snapped are like Florida women.
Yeah. It's probably because it's so hot and muggy out, they just snap. They can't take the heat.
Just over it.
So they just murder
Like,
their
just gonna
husbands.
kill my
I get
husband
it.
today.
They're like, I'm too hot. I'm just gonna go by.
He had it coming.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
I'll tell you, I am fearful. One of my best friends is like 10 years younger than me. So she's still, in her young 20s sowing her oats, on Tinder.
Yeah. Yeah.
And let me tell you, the stories that she tells me, I literally cry and scream because I'm scared for her life. Cis het men in their 20s are dangerous and they're scary and they don't understand the word no.
Yeah. Yeah. That is a very big word in the dictionary that a lot of people do not get the grasp of for quite some time.
I just did a TikTok all about saying no, And the reason why we tend to not say no to people is because we don't want to disappoint them. And let me tell you, ladies, straight ladies, young straight ladies, do not be chained to this idea that you need to please a man. Say no. If you don't want to, say no and stick to that no in 2023. I challenge you.
Absolutely.
Do what you want
Also,
to
just
do
wear
for yourself.
stilettos just in case.
What?
Just in case. Said wear stilettos just in case.
Wear stilettos. That's right.
Just in case. They are a good weapon.
Let me tell you, girls and gays and theys, be safe out there.
Absolutely.
Whew.
Meet in a public place.
Mm-hmm.
Don't get in his car.
No.
Oh, and the
God.
trafficking. And the trafficking, it's become a big thing now. Well, bigger. It's a bigger thing now. They're putting fentanyl on your car handle so you could pass out and then they take you. Oh, I don't even want to talk about it. Oh my God.
It's terrifying. But the message is stay safe, y'all. So when Ava and I are legislators, we'll have to come visit you on Hoarders. I don't know how we're gonna make those two worlds combine.
Well, you could just
combine.
volunteer for whatever horde I'm helping someone take care of. You can just come as a volunteer.
Or not.
So generous of you. Thank you.
I don't know if I can go into the house without having a panic attack, honestly, just because I'm like one of those people that's a minimalist type person and like
Oh,
I need
man.
that to function.
Let me tell you,
But
I'm going to tell you what, Bree. I'm going to be like, can you get the client away from the house? And I'm just going to throw everything away. I'm just going to throw every fucking thing away because my therapy, my favorite kind is exposure. Okay? Exposure therapy works.
you gotta be careful about how you do it. Gotta be careful. Because you can cause some more
If I've
trauma
learned
issues.
nothing, if I've learned nothing from watching Hoarders, I have learned that you can absolutely throw all their shit away, but if you don't fix the problem, they're just going to amass that whole hoard again. Unfortunately, how much
Right.
money they have left.
How much? I was gonna say, like, because like if it were me and I had a hoarding issue, it would not take long because I order shit all the time.
My grandmother shit hoarder tendencies, we'll say that.
Right.
I think it's like a result of like the Great Depression era. Like I'm gonna assume she was probably a child of the Great Depression era.
She was born in the 30s. So
Okay.
yeah, maybe.
Yeah. That's a big thing with a lot of people born in around that time or like the children of that generation because they lost everything. Everything was gone. So like it's like a coping mechanism is to hoard because you've already dealt with one trauma, so you do the exact opposite.
Some people hoard to keep the world out.
I've never heard of that perspective. Would you share that, please?
I mean, that's pretty much it. People put walls up. Some people put walls up, and it's a metaphorical wall. Sometimes hoarders put up a actual physical wall of a hoard to keep the world out.
That's interesting.
I'm telling you right now, Hoarders is deep. I recommend everybody watch it. You'll learn a lot.
I've seen a few episodes, but I think they were all the classic institutionalized kind of thinking. I don't know, is that what you call it? I'm not really sure.
I mean, it could be. I like the food hoarding because people will eat some gross, disgusting items.
What? Okay, hold on. Rewind. Food hoarding. I'm not aware of this one. Enlighten me.
So people will hoard food, expired food especially, and they'll have these thought processes like, oh, I know this yogurt is expired 2 years, but what do you think blue cheese is? If as long as it's not puffy, I'll just eat it. Or vegetables that are rotting, I'll just peel the rot off and eat this part of it.
Sometimes I watch a lot of zombie movies, zombie shows. So like as part of like self-coaching, like especially with exercising, I imagine myself in that world. Like, Ava, you have to be able to outrun these zombies. So I'm going to continue to exercise, right? It makes sense. So
Yeah.
in that same sense,
Right.
right?
They're food prepping.
Right. They're food prepping. If the world was over and there were no supermarkets, wouldn't you eat that half rotten fruit?
Right.
Yes.
And I'm also thinking, like, how many of these people, like, probably experience food insecurities at some point in their life? And it's almost like a
Interesting.
learned.
Yep.
Interesting.
But I guess that just shows the world. Some people look at hoarders and they just think they're these awful people, and you don't really know what's happened to them in their life to cause them to hoard.
So I had to go to court today. I'll talk about that a little bit because I'm sure you guys are going to have, if you haven't already, you're probably going to have to be in court, but for work.
I hope not ever.
If you were going to work in the jails. I was in family court for work. That's where most of my work stuff is family court.
Right.
Man. So usually court is never happy. Very rarely is it a happy situation. I was going in for a TPR and I really did not want to be there. I felt bad. And last minute, the parents decided to surrender. We were there all day. I'm happy that happened because I hate TPRs.
I don't know what you're saying. Speaking a foreign language.
You're
talk-
right. So a TPR is termination of parental rights. And I don't like filing those petitions because that means a lot of times TPRs happen when there's parents who can't get their stuff together enough, even though you've given them the tools. A lot of times, like parents that have developmental disability, stuff like that, because they can't take care of themselves. They can't take care of kids, especially in rural America. There's not enough programs to help support them. It's sad, but and hopefully someday we can bridge that barrier, but it doesn't exist right now.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense because it's like, oh, I'm going to take these kids away from this family because they can't support this child and put them in another family and give that family money to support the child.
Well,
It
it's
makes
not
no
necessarily
sense.
about money though. It's programming because money won't necessarily just help them. They need like certain supports. You know what I mean? And those supports
Like
don't
what?
necessarily exist. Like having care management in the home, like intensive care management, stuff like that, who will come and help them take care of the home and budget their finances, stuff like that.
So we need to develop that program.
Yes,
That's
we
what
do.
need to
We,
do.
we need more. We need more programming, but unfortunately, since it doesn't exist, we get to the point sometimes where we have to file TPR, and it's not happy. It never is. But last minute, this family decided to do a surrender, and I was so happy because the surrender means it's conditional, which means they can still have communication with the kids. The kids will still be adopted, but they'll still be able to have visits with them a couple times a year. They'll still be able to talk to them on the phone, get
Is this
pictures.
temporary or is it like permanent?
It's permanent. So in New York State, there's the ASPA timeline, which is in foster care for 15 of the most recent 22 months. The department is required to find permanency for a child, and that means finding like a permanent home, something that a child can call like their family. And that could be custody with like another family member, like maybe grandma gets custody, and if grandma takes custody, that means the parents could eventually file for custody back. So we always do try to use family before foster care.
Right.
At least around here we do.
My goodness. I hate that for you. I hate that so much for you.
It's a closed chapter because I left DSS, but I still, some of the cases I was working on, they're not wrapped up, so I still have to testify on them. And I know that once I'm a licensed social worker, because I'll be working with the same community that I'm working with.
Yeah.
And they often call in the social workers that the families are working with. Are they doing good? Are they doing poorly?
Yeah, absolutely.
Damn, what a sad day. Jesus.
Listen, but in a way it was happy because I didn't want it to be a TPR. They decided to do a surrender. So these kids are still gonna be able to see their parents.
Yeah, that's good.
That's the happy ending.
Yeah.
I wish there was enough for the parents to be able to take care of them, but
Right.
you can't fix it all in one day.
No, don't you wish we were like genies? We can fix
Oh
it all in one
gosh.
day.
What would you do if you had one superpower? What would you do?
Wait.
I think a good closing question would be for our audience. If you had a superpower in social work, what would it be? What would you do with their superpower in the world of social work?
I feel like if I had a superpower, social work superpower, it would be an empathy wand, and I would like magically bling, empathy. All of a sudden, you now know what it's like to stand in that person's shoes. Bling. All of a
I
sudden,
like it.
you understand,
What a great idea.
right? Look at me. Watch out.
I think if it were me, I'd be ensuring that 1% had a severe trickle down programming. It just oops, here, oops,
Whoops, here's a couple million just fell out of your pocket.
whoops. Just
Trickle down.
have that ability.
More
to
like a
just take.
waterfall, not a trickle down.
Not a trickle.
Like
I think
when it rains buckets.
So I guess I'd, be asking for like a little Robin Hood for the social work world.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
that's dope. What about you, Bree? What's your superpower?
Maybe this is a little selfish, but I would want to read people's minds. So I would know what's going on up there exactly.
I don't know if you. I feel like that would be one of those gifts that are like, be careful what you wish for.
And a curse. With great power comes great responsibility.
Right. All of a sudden, it would be like hell. Get it out of my head. No,
Probably.
absolutely not. I don't want to know.
Well, that's my wish. So
I already think everybody hates me, so I don't need to know it for sure.
Aw.
well, ladies.
All right.
Yeah, send us your questions. Send us if you have any issues, problems, concerns. Send it to us. We'll talk about it. We'll help you work through it. Although we are not licensed.
Between the three of us, we have a whole lot of experience. So
yeah.
And also, if there's anything that like you feel like it's like urgent that you need to like talk about, it's a huge thing in like the world right now that we're missing out on. We're not talking about.
or maybe it's just something in your life that you want to get off your chest. Let us know. practically.socialwork@gmail.com.
Or just practicallysocialwork.com.
Before we depart for the day, we want to remind you that if you have topics you would like to hear about or just have general comments, feel free to reach out and submit those.
Or if you have a topic you want to discuss with us here, reach out. You're always welcoming of making new connections.
Our site is linked below, but please check out our TikTok, our Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube. Talk to you later, everyone, and thanks for listening.
And remember, take care of your future.
Take care of each other.
Take care of yourself.